He arrived believing the Philippines would be a temporary hiding place, a warm island where time moved slower, where mistakes would be forgotten beneath palm trees and cheap sunsets. What he didn't expect was that this country, poor on paper, rich in spirit, would quietly dismantle everything he thought made him successful. He came carrying luggage filled with clothes and pride. He left carrying something heavier: gratitude. He was a foreigner shaped by airports, deadlines, and polished glass offices. Back home, people knew his name, but no one knew his silence. His life looked impressive from the outside, yet every night ended the same way, alone, staring at a screen that no longer answered him back. So when life collapsed in small, humiliating ways, he ran. Not toward adventure. Toward numbness, Manila greeted him without ceremony. Heat pressed against his skin. Traffic moved like a living organism with no concern for his schedule. Faces passed him, laughing, arguing, living, while he stood still, irritated by how little the world seemed to notice him. But somewhere between the smell of rain on hot pavement and the hum of tricycle engines, something unseen was already rearranging his heart, because this is how transformation begins. Not with fireworks, but with discomfort. Not with wisdom, but with resistance. That if you believe that the smallest kindness can undo a lifetime of arrogance, and that healing often comes from places we once ignored, stay with us. These are not travel stories. These are human ones. He arrived believing distance could do what reflection never did. The moment the airport doors opened, the heat of the Philippines pressed against him, not welcoming, not hostile, just honest. It soaked through his shirt and patience at the same time. He told himself this was just weather. But deep down, he felt exposed, as if the country could already see through him. Manila moved in a way that offended his instincts. Traffic flowed without obedience. Horns spoke constantly, but no one sounded angry. People crossed roads with an almost careless faith, trusting strangers to slow down for them. Back home, trust had to be earned. Hey, it seemed freely given. That unsettled him more than chaos ever could. From his apartment window, the city breathed. Vendors called out with tired but cheerful voices. Children laughed while rain soaked their clothes, as if inconvenience was optional. Families crowded together on motorbikes, arms wrapped tightly, not out of fear, but familiarity. He watched all of it with quiet judgment. To him, it looked unambitious, inefficient. He mistook simplicity for lack. At night, the noise softened, but his thoughts did not. Without meetings to attend or people to impress, memories crept in. The career that once defined him, the respect that faded quietly, the phone that stopped ringing. He told himself he chose solitude, but loneliness is a sound, and he could hear it clearly now. He blamed the country for how small he felt, the slow pace, the smiling apologies, the power cuts that interrupted his carefully controlled evenings. He missed order. He missed importance. And though he would never admit it, he missed being needed. He crossed oceans to escape failure, unaware that discomfort was already preparing him for something deeper. He tried to force his old life into this new land. Early mornings, strict schedules, irritation when things didn't happen on time. But the Philippines did not adjust for him. Offices opened when they opened. Deliveries arrived when they arrived. People said later with a smile, as if time itself was shared property. What angered him most was not delay, but calm. No one seemed anxious about the things that consumed him. No one rushed to prove their worth. Laughter filled spaces he believed should be quiet. Patience replaced urgency. And slowly, this contrast began to wear him down. One afternoon, caught in a sudden downpour, he stood under a small roadside shelter with strangers. Water splashed onto their feet. Someone laughed at the sky. Another moved slightly to give him space. No questions. No expectations. No one even looked at him twice. For the first time in years, he wasn't admired or resented. He was simply there. That was when the emptiness surfaced. Not dramatic, just heavy. He realized how much of his identity had depended on being recognized. And here, surrounded by people who had less but seemed fuller, he felt invisible. That night, traffic trapped him for hours. Rain streaked down the windshield like quiet judgment. The city glowed around him, alive, patient, unconcerned with his frustration. And in that unmoving moment, he felt the weight of a life spent chasing success without belonging. Alone in his apartment later, surrounded by comfort that no longer comforted him, he reached his lowest point. He had come to the Philippines believing he had nothing left to lose. He did not yet know that this was the exact moment everything was about to change. The turning point did not arrive with drama. It came quietly, disguised as inconvenience. A morning that began with heavy clouds and the thick smell of rain-soaked pavement ended with him stranded on a narrow provincial road, far from the glass and noise of the city. His plans had collapsed again. The vehicle he trusted sputtered once, then surrendered completely. Silence followed, broken only by distant roosters and the soft rhythm of rain on leaves. He stood there irritated, pacing, checking his phone for a signal that never came. Back home, problems were solved with calls and contracts. Here, there was only waiting, and waiting felt like failure. He wiped rain from his face, muttering under his breath, already blaming the country, the road, the decision that brought him here. Then footsteps approached. Not hurried, not cautious, just present. A man appeared first, barefoot, clothes worn thin by years of sun. Behind him came others, an older woman carrying a plastic bag, 2 children peeking from behind her legs, a neighbor holding an umbrella that did not quite cover anyone properly. They did not ask who he was or where he came from. They only asked what was wrong. He explained in short, clipped sentences, expecting confusion or indifference. Instead, they nodded as if his problem now belonged to all of them. Tools appeared from nowhere. Someone crouched beside the engine. Another waved away his apology. The rain continued, but no one seemed to notice. What unsettled him most was the ease of it. No negotiation, no payment discussed, no impatience. They worked together instinctively, passing tools, sharing space, moving as one body. It was his first encounter with something he had never needed before, Bayanihan, a community lifting a burden simply because it existed. He stood there useless, watching strangers solve a problem he could not buy his way out of. And for the first time in a long while, he felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest. When the engine finally surrendered to their efforts, not fixed, but understood, the group did not apologize. Instead, they invited him to wait. A small wooden house stood nearby, modest and open, its doorway already offering shelter. Inside, the air smelled of boiled rice and something slow-cooked with care. He hesitated. Accepting help was not his strength, but the rain made the decision for him. They handed him a towel without ceremony. A bowl of warm food followed, simple, salty, comforting. He ate in silence, aware of how hungry he truly was, not just for food, but for ease, for a moment where nothing was expected of him. The children watched him curiously. The older woman smiled as if she had known him for years. Conversation flowed around him in a language he barely understood, yet somehow he felt included, not through words, but through presence, through pakikisama, the quiet art of making space for someone without making them feel like a guest. He reached for his wallet instinctively. The room grew gently still. The man who had worked on the engine shook his head, smiling, not offended, but firm. This was not a transaction. This was simply what was done. Something broke then. Not his pride alone, but his definition of wealth. He realized that everything he had chased, control, independence, success, had built walls instead of bridges. And here, among people with so little, those walls did not exist. As evening settled and the rain softened, arrangements were made. A ride, a place to rest. Everything handled without asking for his name. And as he left, carrying a weight he could not name, one truth echoed quietly inside him. He had come to the Philippines believing he was self-made. Now he understood how much of life is carried by others. He returned to the city changed in ways no mirror could show. The noise no longer felt aggressive. The heat no longer felt personal. Even the traffic, once a daily insult, now seemed like a shared patience, thousands of lives agreeing, silently, to endure together. Something inside him had softened, and with that softness came awareness. He began to notice what he had ignored before, the way strangers held doors without looking for thanks. How laughter arrived easily, even on difficult days. How people shared food without counting portions. These were not habits born of comfort, but of connection. And slowly, he realized that what he had witnessed on that rainy road was not an exception. It was the rule. He thought often of the family who had helped him, how they asked for nothing, how kindness had been offered without record or receipt. In his world, help always created debt. Hey, it created relationship. This was Yutang and A Lube, not obligation, but a quiet, lifelong gratitude that lived in the heart that he tried to repay them, not with money, but with presence. He returned to the province when he could. He listened more than he spoke. He learned to wait, to accept help without suspicion, to offer it without announcing it. Each visit stripped away another layer of the man he used to be, and somewhere between shared meals and unplanned conversations, he realized something unsettling. He felt at home. When the time came to leave, it did not feel like departure. It felt like separation. The airport was the same, but he was not. He carried fewer things, yet felt heavy in the best way, anchored by something real. As the plane lifted, the island below blurred into memory, but the lesson remained sharp. He had arrived believing wealth was measured in independence. He left knowing it is measured in how many people would stop in the rain for you. He came thinking success meant never needing anyone. He left understanding that humanity survives because we always do. The Philippines did not fix his life. It reframed it. It taught him that kindness is not weakness, that community is not inefficiency, and that a slow life can still be a full one. He did not romanticize hardship anymore. He respected resilience. Back home, people noticed a change. He listened longer. He spoke softer. He waited. And when asked what the Philippines gave him, he struggled to answer. Because how do you explain a country that didn't give you something, but gave you back yourself? Some journeys end with souvenirs. Others end with truth. And the rarest ones end with gratitude. Some places impress you with what they have. Others change you with how they treat you. The Philippines did not offer this man luxury or certainty. It offered him something far rarer, a reminder that life is not meant to be carried alone. Through simple act of Malasakit, through the quiet power of Bayanihan, he learned that true wealth is not built in isolation, but in shared moments of care that he arrived believing he was complete by himself. He left understanding that completeness comes from connection, and perhaps it is the greatest gift a country can give a stranger, not a destination, but a home for the heart. Have you ever experienced kindness from someone who owed you nothing, yet changed everything? Share your story below.